Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to another conversation on the Afro Social Workers Forum platform. And it's a platform where we counsel, we mentor, we support our community, the Black people in Germany, and of course, all over the world. You are welcome. And my name is Vera Sompon, the host of the program this evening. And I'm going to be having my colleague with me, Batemona Abeke. And today, I'm very sure you've heard about the conversation of the royals. And so therefore the question today will be racism has no respect for royalty. And but we want to examine the character, the behavior, the attitude of Harry. And for us, he is an alliance. And so we're going to be asking the question, what role do allies play in solving systematic racism? Welcome with me, Batemona Abeke from Pamoja, Africa, AFAO in Köln. Ma'am, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Vera. Thank you very much for a wonderful week beginning that we have started today. Today, we are just going to continue with same talk that we have talked last week. And my name is Ellen Batemona Abeke. I'm a social worker and trauma consultant, and I am working and representing an organization, Pamoja Africa, here in Köln, that I founded about 10 to 15 years ago. And we are handling the issues of racism. We are counseling people of African descent, and we offer also trauma-based counseling and also trainings for professionals, and also trying to intermediate, to act as a bridge between the people of African descent and the society we find in Germany. Now, the last week and this week is marking the International Week Against Racism, and we have been having different programs that have to do with racism, creating awareness, talking about allyship, talking about empowerment for those that have gone through racism, with the purpose of empowering and also exposing racism and equipping each and everyone on how to deal with racism. Last week, we used the case study of Meghan and Harry. Most of the people in the world know what's going on now in the royal palace, and also with the issue Meghan faced, and our talks with Oprah Winfrey openly about the racism that she faced in that house. And we are using this example to say that there are so many Meghans out there, there's so many women, there are so many men, there are so many people who go through racism in silence, and we want to empower them with our program today. And today we are going to concentrate more on allyship. And what is the meaning of allyship? The meaning of allyship is for people who are not faced with racism, who have not gone through discrimination, teaming up together, using their privileges, using their status of being white people to support those people that have been faced with racism and discrimination. So this is what we're going to concentrate on. Pay attention, send the link to someone, talk to a friend, and we hope to reach as many as we can this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm happy that you are on board again with the conversation on allyship and, of course, racism. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for giving us a gift of your time. Do us a favor to share the link with friends and invite others who may be allies, or again, who may be people who are survivors of racism, so we can have balanced conversation today. Like you said, ma'am, last week we had the conversation. It was precisely on the role of Meghan. And so today, we have last Sunday, that was yesterday, we had the 21st of March, and it is a day that is worldwide recognized as a day to fight against racism. That was on Sunday. And we still realize that racism from a young person, a young man, or that was your son who explained his experiences, that he played an amazing role some 5 years ago on that same topic against racism. And 5 years after, he has the impression that it is increasing. Before we get into the conversation of alliance and allies, I would like you, ma'am, to give us the definition and tell us exactly the kinds of racism. I know there are diverse kinds of racism, and those racism is different from discrimination. So, ma'am, help us understand, because I know that not only you're a trauma consultant, you have come out with a concept called Pamoja Awareness Concept Against Racism. An amazing concept, by the way. Congratulations for that. So, ma'am,
Mhm.
tell us exactly what is racism, the different forms of racism, and the difference between racism and discrimination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we need to, when we are talking about racism, it's very important to also define what is it that we're calling racism and what are the different types of racism. So to start, racism is actually a creation from the white people that has a long history from the colonialism to the time of slave trade. And because we having a open audience, we do not want to trigger anyone because alone the history of racism is triggering a lot of people. And our purpose of our program is not to trigger, but to empower those people that are listening to us and viewing us. But we need to say that this is just a myth. This is a creation from white people, and they believe that they are better than the other, or they have power, and they give themselves this power. So when we don't talk about racism, we are just empowering them when we are just being silent and saying that yes, they have this power. So we are here to question it, and we are saying that there is no power. They have imposed it on themselves. They actually took advantage of the past, and we are here to regain that what has been taken away from us and to define ourselves. So now we have different kinds of racism. We have the all everyday racism. This is what we go through every day when you wake up in these Western countries, especially Germany, where we are. When you leave your house, when you're going on the train, at your place of work, when you're sitting enjoying your coffee in a restaurant, when you're on the playground with your children, wherever you are, with your friends in a bar, in church, what you go through is called everyday racism. Now, we have the second kind of racism that is called institutional racism. And this is the way the society is structured, the way the laws have been put in place, the institutions where we are working, that when you apply, for example, you apply for a job, as a Black person, you are not given that kind of job that maybe you qualify, but you are just given subordinate jobs, something that is just not wanted by other people. Or if white people don't want this job, then this is when you can only have this job. Or even if you are placed in a job, you're given a job in a certain company, you are given roles that are demeaning. So this is what we call institutional or racism. And then we also have the structural racism that is in place. This is involving structural racism is maybe with the police, what we call, for example, racial profiling. You are standing at a train station, and just because you are just a Black person or you have black hair and you can be noticed from far, these features are used to discriminate you. These features are used to your disadvantage. So this is structural racism. Or the laws of the country are formulated in a way that white people are favoring, or they're getting more benefits and because of their privileges. So these are the kind of racisms that we're talking about. We have also the other racism where people are marginalized because of their where they come from, or because of their hair, because of their religion, or this is also racism. Now, when it comes to discrimination, sorry, before I come to discrimination, I'll give example of some marginalized people like the Sinti and the Roma and the Jews and the people from Kurdistan people, you know. So those people are not being, they get discriminated and they're not given their rights, what is entitled to them, because of simply who they are, because of where they come from. So this is something that we need to handle. Now, we want to talk of discrimination, which is vast, which is big. And discrimination can be in terms of because of your sexual orientation, because of your age, because you are small, because you are financially not stable, because you are, you know, because of your gender, you know, because of being a woman, because of being a hetero person, because of different reasons. So we talk of intersectional racism, and this is, that means that you can face different kinds of discrimination in one person. So you can be a woman, you can be a lesbian woman, you can be a Muslim, and you can be maybe sitting on a wheelchair. You know, they are so different. When everything comes together, then we talk of intersectional discrimination. So yeah, this is very, very important. When we talk of all these things, then we know exactly what is it we are talking about. And we talk mostly about anti-black racism, because this gets swallowed because of being black, because of their color that we have. We face a lot of racism. So we want to really create a lot of awareness. When we talk about racism as Black people, we are talking about our skin color. And no racism is good, no discrimination is good. It is no respect for any human being. It's against humanity. But we have now decided to pay more attention on racism because of who we are, because we are Black people. This is very, very important to talk about. Now, when we go back to Meghan, she was discriminated. I mean, she faced racism because she has she's a woman, she's a lady of Black descent. This is the reason why being in this palace raised a lot of questions. Being a mother to a child, Archie, with Harry, it raised a lot of questions in this palace, and it caused a lot of worries about the future. Who is going to be the future king, and what color these people are having? So you can see that these conversations that were held are very, very racist, and it's good that we talk about it. Thank you, Vera, for all this. Yep.
Thank you very much, ma'am. A lot of things you mentioned there, and I would like to recapture them. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Mary DeCaro. Thank you, Martina, for joining. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. Please share the link. Remember, we're doing this work because of you out there, and so please do not hesitate to share the link. Invite some friends to join into the conversation, and let's have a balanced conversation. Ma'am, you said that racism is a creation of the white people. And this is so terrible, because usually when I have conversation with people, especially with Black people, I get at times double frustrated, because I have the impression that some Black people or people of color or people get to relativate the conversation and tell me Black people are also racist. What does that mean, ma'am?
So
Where do they come from? From what background do they come from with this information?
So I can't really answer, but it's a misconception, because Black people cannot be racist. They can discriminate. This is very clear, but they can't be racist.
Ma'am,
white
explain
people.
this exactly to us so that we understand it now and forever. Why can Black people not be racist against white people or not be racist at all?
Yes. Maybe the other way around. White people cannot face racism
Mhm.
simply because it is their own creation. They created racist. The racism, they created it, and wherever they go, they can be discriminated, but they cannot be disadvantaged because of being white. To the contrary, they get favors, even in our own continent. At the airport, try it. You may land in your airport and you are with other white people. And because our people working at the airport, they still suffer from colonial mentality. Yeah, we may say that we have our independence and we are free from it. No, but we are still enclosed with a colonial mentality. Because of that belief, oh yes, we have to bow down to white people. They may let the white people go in without dissecting their passports and turning it upside down. And you, even having a, let's give you an example, having a German passport, your own people at your own immigration office will not be contented that it is possible for you to come home with a German passport. But it's self-explanatory for a German to have a German passport. So they just stamp and they'll let them go. And yours will be twisted up and down. You'll be told, wait here. You'll be questioned. You'll be interviewed even in your own country. And this is because of what we are calling the colonial mentality still taking place. So it is still there. So to cut the story, the white people are enjoying the privileges that they have set for themselves, that they have defined on their own, and they have made even the Black people feel and accept that they are entitled to these privileges. So that's
Ma'am,
why
we are
the
going to
next
come to these
question.
privileges. We are going to come to these privileges. I'm going to hit again the same question on. I was asked this question when I was really defending this issue of racism, and someone asked me the question: Do you think that only Black people suffer racism?
Yes. I said Black people suffer racism. There are other people like Sinti and Roma. These people also face racism because of where they come from.
Thank you.
The darker your hair, the darker your skin, the more you are prone to racism.
Mhm. Thank you very much, ma'am, for
And
this elaborate.
maybe one more question. Those countries that were colonized by colonial masters, those people face racism.
Mhm.
Yes.
Exactly. So, in principle, we are talking about when you talk about this, the darker you are, then
Yes.
we have many people into it now.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for this real good explanation. I'm hoping that many other people would get to listen to this video, not shy away from it, because I am realizing that when it has to do with racism, many people relativate it, many people put it down as though it never existed. And then thank you for reminding us about the colonial mindset. And it reminds me also of what Malcolm X, I love our heroes, Malcolm X, who said the house slave thinks he or she is better than the field slave simply because he gets some privileges from the master, and therefore he feels he is like the master. And being like the master, he thinks it's also better to colonize again the field slave. Ouch. This was a powerful talk.
Yes.
Mom, let's go to Harry and Meghan. I was very fascinated with the story, with how Harry supported his wife. And that takes us to the conversation of white people and their privileges.
Yes.
Tell us more about Harry, his privileges, and how he used that as an alliance.
Okay. Harry is a young man who is born in a palace, born a prince. He's actually called Prince Harry as we know him. And this boy has never faced, he's never faced, because of just being a white person, because of being a prince, he has always been privileged. He enjoys every privilege. He gets a red carpet wherever he goes. He doesn't have to struggle like other people. Now, that is the privilege that we are talking of Harry. He won't be protected. He has his whole future is financially stable, is taken care of. And now I don't want to say it's a mistake, but it's a dilemma for the palace or for the queen when he brought a black woman in the palace. These people were confused. They didn't know how to handle this matter. What happened is when now Meghan faced a lot of hatred, a lot of racism, she never spoke about it because she wanted to keep this marriage and stay in this royal house. But when the going got tougher, where she talked of depression, when she talked of even having suicide thoughts, and she made her mind she want to leave. Ally decided, I will not let her go alone. I will go with her. I am married to this woman. I never saw her skin color. I love her. I know what my mother Diana has gone through. I will not let this woman I'm married to go through the same dilemma, because my family, they have spoken to the family about these things, and no protection was offered, and Meghan was not taken serious. In any case, from the beginning, they think Harry is a crazy boy because he has always been acting different from what is supposed to be done in this palace, in this royal house. So when Meghan decided to leave, Harry decided to join him, and he denounced his prince being a prince. He said, we are dropping, me and my wife, we are dropping our titles. We don't want any support from the royal office. We don't want any title. We don't want any protection from anyone. We want to lead our life. So this is what happened. And by taking this step, listen to this point very carefully. Taking this point, a step, he used his privileges to drop all those things that he was enjoying, and he decided to join Meghan. And now, why are we talking about this topic of Harry and Meghan 2 weeks consecutively? It is because we want to talk to the viewers that are listening. It's because we are talking to the husbands. It's because we want to talk to the wives. It's because we want to reach the parents so that you can be one to support your people, your partner, your colleagues. You use your privileges as a white person to turn the story the other way around. In fact, the question can be, how can I use my privileges? If you are a white person, you have contact to people who don't get accommodation because of being Black, on being from Roma or Sinti, on being physically maybe not strong. You can use those favors, those privileges that you have. You can use your whiteness, your being a white person, to support where you can. Okay? So, for example, you can even refuse. You can say, this favor being given to me, I am rejecting it. I do not want to enjoy it. I don't want to be highly paid than the other people. If you are highly paid, you can also question, why is Ellen being paid less than me and we are doing the kind of job? If 2 or 3 people ask this question in an organization, maybe the employer is going to think twice. And if you also always standing by those that are being at a problem. If you're traveling in a train and you see someone is being mistreated because of being Black or because of one thing or the other, you can come in, you can bring in your civil courage, you can question, you can start a petition, you can write a complaint letter to the authority, you can question the police, you can avail yourself as a witness. If you are a witness of racism, you can raise your hand, you say, here I am, I saw what happened. You can stand by that person so that this person will not also be shaken by the police when the police comes in case of an event taking place. You know, if you are organizing an event, that's why we are calling awareness in simple ones. You have to check who is it that is going to profit from this event. What about the mothers that have children? If I make the event at 7, 8 p.m., talk less now of restriction times. The mothers at that time, this is the time they bring their children to bed. What about those single mothers who don't have a partner to remain with the children? What about me making an event when the parents are available, when the children are maybe in school and kindergarten? So this is creating, we want to create awareness so people to start thinking. We want people to have this moral integrity. Whenever you are doing something, whenever you are teaming up to act against someone, think, how is the other person feeling? Could it be I'm doing this because of the privileges that I have? When it comes to privileges, it's not only white people, even black people, they misuse their privileges. And each and every one here this evening, you have some certain top kinds of privileges. If you don't wear glasses, you may not know what the person who wears glasses face when you write something, a letter in very small numbers. So if you are aware, you will write big numbers so that everyone can read, even the people that have seeing difficulties. This is what we are talking about. If you're working in job center, on Jobcom, wherever, if people make the applications, if you're having this awareness or allyship attitude, you will simply, even if something is missing, you will use your awareship, being aware, to explain in a matter that they will understand. You will not just throw the papers and tell them, I don't speak German language, go bring a translator. You yourself, if you really want to help this person, there's a way you can do it and support that person without bringing problem. So this is why we are insisting on this awareness. This is why we are insisting on allyship, so that we can change, we can transform the society to be a better place for each and every one of us. Not only the white people, but for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very Thank you very much, ma'am. When you were talking, you mentioned very simple stuffs, but they're really true, very true. You said we should pay attention to what we write, and I felt guilty because at times I send you some text and you say, "Ma'am, I'm wearing glasses." I'm very sorry about that. So I'm going to be, I'll use my privileges so that I don't always put you under stress, so that you can be able to read the text as big as it may be.
Thank you.
Ma'am, but you are talking about some hard stuffs here. How can I give out my privileges? How do I mean, you said if you go into a company and the employer is paying different wages, and I can tell the employer, but why are you paying me more than Madam Batemona Abeke? Ma'am, aren't you exaggerating? How do one get to say, I'm going to give up my privileges to support another person enjoy a little of what I enjoy? Explain that to us more using the concept of awareness. How do I get to that level?
You will get to that level when you know that however privileged you are, if your neighbor, there's a saying, I think it's an African saying, that says, if your neighbor is angry, you will not sleep. So the
Mm,
same thing with racism. If you are
mm,
a racist, if you are a white person in this country, wherever you are, and
mm,
the other people that are facing racism are still continuing to face racism generation after generation, they'll be
mm,
lamenting. They're in the same school with your children. Let me just make it simple. The children, if we think racism is trauma, and or racism causes trauma. And we also saying that those people that face trauma, they can give it to the from one generation to another. So if a mother faces racism and is traumatized because of racism, probably the children will also get trauma. These children are going to go to the same school with your own children, you racist. Those children that have gone through this racism, the kind of behavior they are going to have, it is going to disrupt your own children from attending to the lessons properly. For example, this is just a small something, but it means if we can apply it in every society, and your own sanity, you won't be at peace. All this lamenting, all these talks that are being made, demonstrations here and there, you will not be at peace. So we are talking power sharing. We are talking of renouncing your privileges, surrendering your privileges, especially if you know how you came to get those privileges as a white person. Many argue, I don't know, I am not the one, but you are a white person. Alone being a white person is a status because you are not stopped at the airport. You are not questioned. You are entitled to the basic education in this country. You don't need to apply for a visa. You don't need you must not own a passport. You can wake up and decide, I want to go to Honolulu, I want to go to Rwanda next week, I want to go to China the week after. Nobody is going to question you. You may not think, oh, do I have a passport? Am I going to be put on long queues at the airport? Or am I going to have a straight entrance or go through a gate that opens when I appear? So those are some of the questions that you and your children, we are talking about racism with our children. I talk about racism to my 10-year-old, whereas the 10-year-old white German child, they have other topics. They don't talk about racism. So these are the kind of privilege we are talking about. That means your creation, something that you created and purposely decided to demean a Black person, is affecting us till today. See the way people that want to come to Europe, what kind of problems they are having in Libya, in Morocco. Some of them come swimming in Europe. But if you want to go to my own country, you just buy a first-class ticket, enter, go there. In my own country, at my own airport, you're going to get a first-class treatment. Nobody is going to ask you. Even if you enter a visa for 2 weeks and you stay for 3 weeks. The highest that can happen is for you to get a small fine, or they put you back on the plane, you go back to your country. Let something like this happen to somebody here. This person is going to completely not be allowed to come back to this country. Then data is going to be saved that you overstayed in Europe. So that's why we are saying, come on. Is it not? Don't you even reflect? Don't you get embarrassed because of this kind of behavior? This is the talks we are talking to white people. Don't you get ashamed? Don't you have don't you get remorseful? These are the questions we should be asking in such conversations.
Don't you get remorse? Don't you get a shame in such conversation? And this takes me to the conversation of critical whiteness. You talked about power sharing. You talked about the privileges white people have, and they are so enormous. You also mentioned about the colonial mindset of our people that is still very much alive today. We've talked about the different forms of racism. For those who are just coming late, we agreed and understood now that Black people can never be racist against white people. It is always the other way around because racism is a construct, a system created by white people to feel better than any other race on the planet. And we also talked about the importance of using our privileges to ally with people going through racism. In the case of Meghan and Harry, Prince Harry did not suffer racism. Meghan suffered racism, and Prince Harry allied to support her. And that's why our conversation today is really on allyship, how white people, how privileged people, and if you are Black and you're privileged, how you can use your privileges to support other people who have been discriminated upon or who are suffering from discrimination, because we know that discrimination, pardon, that racism is trauma. Mom, tell us more about critical white awareness. And of course, in your telling us about critical white awareness, don't forget to tell us about white fragility. What is that?
Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to talk about yes, we're going to talk about the basis of a critical examination of whiteness and power critical self-reflection, which is what we are seeing in Germany, critical white Auseinandersetzung mit critical white awareness. So what we are talking about, and this is a recommendation that we make to white people to cross-examine, to critically examine themselves and about them being white and the privileges that are attached to being white, and also critically self-reflect. Do I want, now with the information I have, am I really fine with this? With knowing where the history of this racism, with knowing about the history and the history of racism, do I come into terms with it? And what about the new colonialization that is still there, and the stereotypes and the prejudices that exist? So this is what we recommend that the white people to do by attending seminars, by self-reflection, trying to inform themselves. It's not enough to say I'm not a racist, and it's not enough to be silent, because silent is also a statement. Silent is a statement that I'm fine with it. So keeping quiet is not a solution, my white viewers outside there. So you got to do something about racism. However small it is, you have to do something. So and also critical whiteness is also if you self-reflect, it's about also knowing about how you can go about those privileges that I talked about. And it is also about acknowledging the suffering of the people who have gone through racism, apologizing, and using your resources that you have to support them. Like I said, not speaking about racism is also supporting racism. So we talked of renouncing or in critical whiteness. We talk about white people renouncing those privileges, also surrendering them, using a language that is critical of racism. You learn about it because the language has power also. It's also, you learn also about being active, getting involved, showing moral courage, like I said, in the train, at a place of work. It's also an attitude that counts. It's an attitude that counts. If, for example, you launch a complaint on behalf of, and mind you, when I say on behalf of, I don't say you just do things without involving those that have faced racism. No, you have to involve them and offer support, be on their side, and not to do everything on their own, be on their side, always getting their consent before you do something. And also to continue critical whiteness, we also say continue further educating yourself about critical whiteness. Engage with critical whiteness awareness every time. Now, what are we talking of white supremacy and what is white fragility? White supremacy is that power that white people have given themselves, is that white people have allowed themselves not to be questioned. They are supreme. Supremacy is coming from the one supreme. And the only thing we say is, so person is God, is supreme. So white people have made themselves like, number two to God, or even if at all more than him. It is about addressing the historiography of those people that have gone through racism. Now, supremacy is you be aware of those powers that you have, and you go down, calm down. White fragility, we talk about white fragility, which exists with white people, because if they are questioned, or if you show that you reject racism, or you tell them this is racism, they become nervous. They start questioning. They say that, oh, yeah, but why are we, speeches like, or conversations like, it's not us. I cannot be accountable for the past, what white people have done in the past. Of course, you can be accountable, because you are profiting from what your ancestors did to the others. Yeah, you can be accountable. So when you are questioned, or when you are reminded, or when you keep quiet, is also a fragility. Or when you always act against, or you reject, you say, I'm not a racist. This is fragility. It's a weakness. So you have to know that people who face racism, they are not fragile. They have developed panzers. So be ready now to be confronted when you are showing acts of racism and you are confronted. Don't expect mercy. Don't say that people that are dealing with racism, or the activists, are so aggressive, they are so radical. You are not the one to define, because all these times you have been sitting on us, and many years, 500 years, yeah, people have been lamenting, but it doesn't change. So the generation of today is not taking this nonsense anymore. Even if we are here in this country, we are here because you came to our countries first. So those white supremacy things, we don't bother or take them seriously anymore. We are there to condone it, and to say that we will really deal with racism. We are going to talk about racism. We will call racism, and we are not going to beautify it with any other name. We are not going to call it diversity. We are not going to call it hatred. We are going to call it racism.
Thank you, ma'am. We're not
Yeah.
going to call it diversity. We're not going to call it hatred. We're just simply going to put it as it is, racism.
Yes.
Wow. Ma'am, now that we are just putting it as it is, and we know there's a lot of white fragility, how do we get alliance to win this battle?
So by talking, as we are talking today, we are calling on our white people. We are telling them raw as it is. We are not filtering it. We are not beautifying it. We are saying that enough is enough. People are suffering. People have suffered in the past, and it is time now to stop this racism. Now, if you feel that what we are saying is okay, you can also join us, and you are more than welcome, even as a white person, to be an advocate, to take over responsibility and clear the mess that has been created by white people, because it is not the responsibility of those people that have gone through racism to come and start sweeping now the messes that or the misbehavior of white people. So by so doing, we are going to be in this mission, all of us, right? Under normal circumstances, we are supposed to be empowering ourselves. We are supposed to be taking care of our broken souls. We are supposed to be taking care of our children. We are supposed to be taking care of our mental state, because we said racism causes trauma. We are supposed to be self-caring for ourselves. We are supposed to be meeting, meeting like-minded people so that we can strengthen ourselves and support ourselves with self-help groups, with safe spaces, for example, and healing, also talking, learning about our history, changing our names, knowing that even these names we are carrying, it is always a remembrance every day of colonial masters. I've seen so many Black people, they are denouncing their names. Of course, this
Oh,
is
yes.
a name, it will not finish, but I don't want to carry a name that is reminding me of colonialism. I want to see a white person who is calling himself Wamboi or Wanjiro because it is a name. It is an handoff. So as Ngugi wa Thiong'o, 2 weeks ago, we had a conversation with Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who is one of our elder, who is really talking about this matter. And he said, our people, those names you are carrying, you are calling colonial names. You are still colonizing yourself. Why? What about your beautiful names? And I'm seeing a movement of young people now changing the names. It's so expensive here to change the names. Even if we can't afford to change it from our document, we can refuse to be called those names as a resistant, to resist to continue supporting this. And those mothers that are getting children, give your children your own names and don't come and cover them with names that we already know they have a colonial history. In fact, even my small boy doesn't want to be called this name anymore. He's gone back to his African names. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. This is powerful. This is decolonization. Tell us
Yes.
a little more, ma'am, about decolonization before we get into empowerment and safe space. I'm hoping, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this conversation. The intention of this conversation is not to lay any accusing finger on anyone. The intention of our conversation is to create awareness, to heal ourselves, and take actions. And of course, create more alliance so that we can be able to create more healing in the community, and of course have more alliances to overcome the deadly disease called racism. Like we said, racism is trauma. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another conversation of the Afro Social Workers Forum. This is your platform. Make use of this platform. Send us your messages if you have any questions on any of our topics we have discussed in the past, or even now. Send your questions. Do not also forget to ask questions now, comment, and let's continue. Don't forget to subscribe to all our channels. Don't forget to follow us because we give you just the best information so that you can grow, you can take possess the land, and you can succeed in every areas of your life. We are your social workers so that you can also succeed here in Germany and everywhere else in the world. We help to mentor you, we help to coach you, and we support you so you can fulfill. Thank you for joining again today. And our conversation today was on the topic, the royalty have no regard for other royals. So they also have racism. And of course, we emphasize on allies. And Prince Harry, is an example of an ally who helped his wife overcome systematic racism. And my colleague Batemona Abeke already defined the different kinds of racism, because some field or house slaves believe that some field slaves can also be racist. And so we try to clarify this case today so that please, the conversation that Black people are also racist should please stop. If you're ignorant, get to learn more about the history. There may be discrimination, but not racism, because racism is a construction from the white people and therefore cannot come from the side of Africans. Ma'am, we have talked about that. We've talked about the critical white awareness. We've spoken also about the privilege, fragility. I'm afraid that many people can start crying now, and I don't want anyone to cry. But then it is still a way to heal, right? Now let's talk about empowerment, ma'am. Now we know that racism is trauma. Tell us more about empowerment. What is empowerment, given the fact that everyone is using the word empowerment? But I know that empowerment comes from social work. What is empowerment?
So thank you very much. Empowerment is about personal and collective strengthening and empowerment in the power relations. You empower yourself or you empower each other by strengthening them depending on what they are going through. So we have different ways we recommend, because the first one is you have to take care of your mental state. So we have a concept, we talk about stress and trauma approach. You approach matters in a way that you're going to reduce stress, and with all it takes to reduce stress. So if it is dancing, if it is meeting friends, it's about dressing, if it's about taking care of your skin, if this is what reduces stress and makes you happy, please do it. We encourage this. If it means meeting in groups of, I don't know, women or children or men, or as Africans, going for a coffee date, or doing things that make you feel good, things that they give you more strength, and not things that drain you, because racism really drains us a lot of energy, and we need to compensate. It's very important to self-develop ourselves also. Empowerment could also mean knowing our identity. We talked about our names, because names also give meaning to someone. So if you don't know your background, if you don't know your identity, if you don't know your family, then you are actually lost. You don't have a foundation, because here you are not being accepted. You're not really being seen as someone who is staying here in Germany and have a right to be here. So you are floating, and anybody that is floating is not having a proper foundation. So, I always give this example in Kenya, in the village, those that came from the village like me. It's like when you buy a new chicken, and you bring it in your homestead, it will always be standing on one leg, because it's new. It doesn't know the environment. But when this chicken or this hen is stable and knows and feels I'm safe, then it starts with both legs, and it can start walking and looking for maize or for whatever it wants to eat. So some of us have been standing on one leg because we have not felt welcome. We have faced a lot of racism. We're always being reminded you don't come from here. Even if you've been born and raised here, generation after generation, you are treated like someone who came yesterday. So that's why there are all those slogans like, what's your name, and when do you come from, and are you fine here in Germany? All those trigger ones that we talk about. So because simply you're a Black person, so we encourage you to empower yourself to do things that make you happy. Empower your children so that they can know their origin, so that they can know how to define themselves, so they don't need to wait to be defined by someone else. Because when you know who you are, your identity, then nobody will come and start telling you stories about where you come from and how poor your continent or your country is, because you know yourself. And maybe if you have a possibility of even traveling, you travel home so that you can see these things by yourself, and not to depend on what the media is talking about Africans and Africa in general, right? So this is empowerment. It strengthens people who feel affected to confront hurtful experiences. So if you are not empowered, you are not stable enough to confront racism. And until you empower yourself, you will not have that courage. And even if you have the courage and you talk about it and they throw the missile back again, remember white supremacy, white fragility, then you're going to fold yourself again. That's why we're encouraging the Black people, Black parents, empower your children. Talk to your children about racism. Let them know what racism is. Let them be encouraging their children to talk to your children. Every evening when your children come from school, sit down, have dinner with them. Ask them how the day was. And depending on what they're explaining to you, the next day, march in school, raise questions. If you feel you're not so empowered to go alone, carry someone. Look for African social workers. We have so many organized groups that are now there to go and face a school that is going to, and we will really storm that school, not with violence. We know the strategies. We know the law in this country, how we can make those approaches. So don't have fear. Don't keep quiet. Don't continue to be made small because we are not small. Let's just empower ourselves, empower the community. Let's empower our children so that we can emerge big and fight this monster, racism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And
Maybe the last question, last answer is, I'm talking a lot of awareness because if we know what awareness is, we are going to empower ourselves and we are going to learn in our awareness sessions how we can tackle racism when we get it, when we experience it. Thank you.
thank you very much, ma'am. We're already rounding up the program. Just a few minutes. You have 1 minute to tell us what is awareness against racism in 1 minute.
I didn't hear. It didn't come properly. The voice was gone.
Thank you. We are almost rounding up, and I want you to be giving us a concluding statement. In your concluding statement, I want you to tell us what is Pamoja awareness concept against racism. 1 minute, ma'am.
So Pamoja awareness concept is a concept that I and a group of colleagues have put together in papers, and it is an attitude. It's talking about an attitude, and we are and also creating awareness about all these things that I've talked about today, and how the critical whiteness can be implemented. What white people need to know about their privileges. What is whiteness in this awareness? It's explaining what whiteness is about, and it's offering concrete suggestions how individuals, how institutions, how government institutions, how the lawmakers, what they can do so that they can tackle racism. We are very convinced that if everyone adopts this awareness attitude or concept, that we are going to, our society is going to move to another stage. And it's also talking to those that have faced racism, how they can empower themselves. So please enroll. Check on Pamoja with info@pamojaafrica.org, and you're going to get so many information about it. And it's also for white partners also to know how to deal with their Black partners and with their children who are biracial. So it's not only from Black people, it's really for everyone in the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And we're very sorry we're coming to the end of our conversation. 58 minutes is just not much. And but I'm going to summarize awareness. Thank you very much, Leval, who is repeating and say, hey, it all boils down to awareness. Hamambo, we're going to take your question and postpone it for the next conversation. I'm hoping that on Thursday next week you'll be able to be around. It's going to be on a conversation on racism so that we can answer this question. Ma'am, take note of the question. What do you say to those people who have white partners who don't want to see racism? Many of them don't want to see racism. We're not answering the question now, but you're taking note. And maybe please, after this, just go to the comment section and respond to all the questions that have been given there or asked there. And Mattis Heidge says, next time I will also share it on our organization's page. There is a lot to learn for our community from Pamoja Africa and, of course, Sompon. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you for supporting the work. God bless you all. We've come to the end of the conversation. It is always too short. I would have said, Harry, back to our example today, was an ally. He is an ally and he has used his privileges to support his wife. Wherever you may be now, and you are a white person and you are a black person with a lot of privileges too, please make sure you use your privileges just like Prince Harry did. And remember, racism can affect everyone. It doesn't spare even the royalties. God bless you. And we'll meet again on Thursday for a political conversation, finding out how Christians can understand the importance or become more aware of politics. Until then, God bless you and thank you for sharing your time with us. Bye bye.
Thank you.